Welcome to Game Store Stories, the first episode ever. I am your host, Cody James Spencer, owner of Gorillia Games, and with me, I have Cooper and Abbey of Double Jump Games. Hi guys, how you doing? Good. So the point of this podcast is basically I do a live stream pretty often, and I end up telling these stories all the time. It seems like that's kind of everyone's favorite thing. People are always asking for these stories, so I figure let's put it into just an audio version. And also, I'm not the only one with stories. All of these game stores across America, they have all sorts of crazy things that happen all the time. I've talked to people all the time, so let's hear some of those instead. You've heard enough of me. Guys, tell me about Double Jump Games.
So, we opened in 2018. We're in Vancouver, Washington, so same state as Gorillia, but, a few hours south. We're basically in Portland. We do video games, movies, toys, a little bit of Pokemon cards, and some stuff like that. We have a YouTube channel as well. Right now we're doing 5 videos a week. They're basically vlogs of the daily life at the store. So I think kind of the same thing you're doing on Twitch, just in a video form instead. So we show all the trade-ins. We do like staff pick segments. We just show testing and cleaning items and all sorts of stuff like that. And yes, that's pretty much it. We've been doing it since 2018, and we've expanded the store once, and hopefully we can keep going.
Yeah, the remodel looked sick. You doubled the space, right?
Basically.
Yeah.
I think we went from about 1,100 square feet to like 2,300, something like that. It basically almost doubled our sales floor, which is what we needed. So,
and right after that happened, you see like a giant uptick in people or comment sales, anything?
I feel like our growth has kind of been steady.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but I mean, it doesn't hurt, obviously, to have more space. The more product you can physically put out, the more you will sell. That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, of course.
The more variety you can offer.
Yeah, but it's been good, and if the dry cleaner on the other side of us ever closes, we'll probably expand that way, but it probably won't happen.
Oh yeah? You think you could fill all that space?
Easily.
Oh wow. Damn. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, you just have 3 stores. Well, if you combine it all into one, it'd be a pretty big store.
Oh man, but it's a nightmare keeping up. It's it's a lot of work, as you know. So, why don't you tell me? I thought first episode we should probably do besides introductions, introductions to how the stores even happen. I have my whole thing. Gorillia is as old as 2005, although I've only owned it for 6 or 7 of those years. What about you guys? 2018, and how did that happen?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So in
I'll jump in if there's anything I think I can add to the story.
Sounds good. So I and Cooper actually met in 2015, and it was always a dream of Cooper's to have his own store. And for me, I was kind of just like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I was supportive, but at the same time, it was just such a big thing to do. And so I think in about 2017, it became like, hey, I actually really want to do this. And I was just like, okay, let's start. Let's try to get this done, and let's take it step by step. And we started to do a lot of Craigslist was still pretty popular at the time. So, and that's right when OfferUp and Mercari started as well, but people were still into Craigslist. So we were contacting people who were selling things on Craigslist, or they were contacting us to sell things, and we started just put things in our garage.
Oh yeah. So were you just self-funding off of your normal jobs?
Yes.
Oh, so I was a full-time reseller starting in 2014. So I was buying and selling mostly video games, but I would do other stuff as well, just selling on eBay, and then I started getting into selling on Amazon as well.
Did you do the convention circuits as well?
No,
our first convention was in 2017 of PRGE.
We sold a PRGE in 2017, but that was as the store, even though we weren't open yet. But prior to that, I was going to Goodwill's every day, and I was doing Facebook Marketplace deals and Craigslist deals, and I was just buying and selling stuff on eBay and Amazon. That's how I supported us from when we moved in until we opened the store. It was all eBay and Amazon. And we just started putting inventory away because I was selling more than just video games. So, I would sell toys and board games and puzzles and electronics and anything, literally anything.
Fun resellable thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Even stuff that's not fun. I would sell a lot of ink cartridges and stuff like that.
Okay.
So literally anything.
I think it like became like really real for me when you bought that Eco Auto Smart disc resurfacing machine.
Oh, that is a big.
We bought
that's a
that
big step. Yeah.
before we opened the store.
Yeah, so he would be in the garage just resurfacing these discs from like these Craigslist deals and everything. And then we started to look for a retail spot once like the garage kind of got full. It was just like there was rows of shelving with stuff on it that he was testing and everything. And at the time I had a full-time job. So like I was focused on doing that and he was working on like in the evenings like disc resurfacing and everything. And then I had an office space that I was renting with a friend of mine where he was doing eBay and Amazon as well. So we were working out of like an office for like a year and a half or 2 years. Probably about 2 years, yeah.
So at some point we were like laying in bed one night and it was just like a light bulb went off. Like literally. It was just like the craziest thing. Like it clicked in my head and I was like, I'm already renting an office space and I want to open up a game store. Why don't I just rent a retail space and open up the store? And I can, if I need the office, that can be in the back room.
That's nice. Sounds like it was just like an easy transition. Just everything kind of.
Yeah.
Well, or is it?
Kinda, because I was originally planning on opening the store with that friend who I was working out of the office with, and he was very
hesitant.
He was very hesitant, but he was like he wanted everything to be perfect. Like he wanted to have everything ready to go by the time like that we started on anything for the game store. And we had started to build inventory together, but that was it. I was like, let's form the LLC, let's do all the stuff we need to do, and he's like, oh, I think we should wait. And I was like, I'm not waiting anymore.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of back and forth on at what point do you keep the stock for the store and what point do you sell a little bit of it so you can get more. So there's a lot of back and forth of that partner wanting to be like, we need to just sell a bunch of this stuff because I feel like we're low on money for this dream of ours. So we did end up buying him out of the store idea because he had put some money in. So we did buy him out and then we started looking for retail locations after getting our licensing together.
I imagine that was probably for the best,
Yeah.
I know the experience of, two partners running a place. Having a third sounds like...
So at the beginning, I wasn't actually really going to be like too active in it. Once we actually opened up our store, I was still full-time working nights at my job. And then it got to a point where he had been working at the store 7 days a week for like almost 2 months. And I was like, this needs to stop. And we were sharing a vehicle.
Yeah, I was the only person, and we were open 7 days a week. We were open from
10?
I think we were open from 11 to 9 p.m.
No, it was 10 to 9.
I thought it was 11. It was either 10 or 11, but we were closed at 9 p.m. So
yeah, you're doing 12-hour days at least. Yeah, 7
and I would get in early and leave late because there's always extra stuff to do. So I did everything. It was 28 days in a row before I was like, I need a day off. Like, I didn't have time to do anything. Like, I ate all my meals at the store. I literally went home to sleep. I didn't have time to go grocery shopping. I didn't have time to literally do anything.
Yeah.
And so after 28 days, we're like, we're going to close 1 day a week.
Yeah.
So we started doing
reasonable.
that. We closed on Tuesday because that was the slowest day. And then after being open for like 2.5 months, that's when you quit your other job.
Yeah.
And then started working at the store with me.
Yeah.
But we were still both there together 6 days a week.
It was interesting. It wasn't hard to work together though, which was like a great thing. We work really well together, which is probably what benefited everything. And then he went on tour with his band. And I had to learn how to do trade-ins, which I didn't really know how to do. So we opened in August of 2018. He left in November or December. The first time, not the
first time.
Yeah, it was November-ish, I think.
I guess it was in November. For some reason, I thought it was in February, but...
No, that was your second tour in 2020.
Either way, I had to leave for like 2 to 3 weeks.
And when we opened the store, I was not allowed to play video games as a child.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't really allowed to watch TV either. I had very strict parents who were like, go outside, go play, don't watch TV, don't do computer stuff. So the first game I ever played was when I was 18. It was Skyrim.
Oh wow.
I had borrowed my friend, like a friend's GBA to play like Leaf Green or Emerald as a kid, but that was like my exposure to the video game world. So when
And she played Ocarina of Time with her aunt a lot,
but like I
that was
didn't
kind of
have
it.
game consoles. That was pretty much it. And so he's like, I have to go on tour, and I was just like,
This sounds like the scariest thing ever. Leaving a job
yes,
to start like your own thing, investing in yourself, which is dope. But
yeah.
very scary. Especially, I didn't know that you have probably the least. I'm gonna guess the least experience with games for a game store owner I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I did not know the compatibility for Game Boy games and Game Boy consoles. So like the DS Lite terrified me because somebody would be like, "Does this game play on this?" And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, "But you're the owner," and I'm like, "Yeah." So
well, thank God for Google. I always say like when we're like training employees, I'm like, you can be dumb, that's fine, but you have to be nice.
Yes.
People will forgive you if you have to Google something.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Be nice, right?
That's what we teach our employees. It's like it's perfectly okay to say you don't know. Let me double check for you, rather than give like a totally incorrect answer.
Oh God, please don't do that. Yeah.
So yeah, that 2 weeks of him not being there was a huge learning curve, but it also was like a lot of independence of me realizing like, oh, I can actually be in charge of this business and I can manage myself and I can manage the location. And I have to say, I don't think we could have done it without the pizzeria, like 5 doors down from us, because I would order pizza slices and they'd be like, "Are you busy? We can bring it to you." And they would send one of their employees with food to us. And
that was back when we had to lock the door.
We had to
go to
the
the bathroom.
door to leave.
We had to like close up shop just to have a bathroom break.
And like put a sign out. And there's one time I was just like, I really have to go to the bathroom. You guys need to get out. I had to kick people out and they're just waiting outside.
Yeah. It's a little embarrassing, but it's good. It means you're that busy, right?
Yes.
So that's sweet.
And then since then, we had from opening to 2022, we gained 1 employee, and then COVID happened, and then 2022, yeah, 2020, and then we went from having 1 employee to having 6 employees plus the 2 of us, and doubling our sales force. So it has been a journey from start to finish.
And we go to a ton of other game stores all the time, even Pink Gorilla. But you guys have 3 locations, but like we don't have a day where we have less than 5 people working at a time.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. You don't like bump into each other. I mean, you probably get a hell of a lot done.
Actually, we don't.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're so busy. We have a lot of foot traffic. And we're just insanely busy all the time with trades. And there are days where we actually have to cut off trades because we cannot keep up with them.
Most days.
Yeah. Pretty much every day.
But it's crazy. And I mentioned we go to other game stores because when we travel to other places, we'll go in, there'll be maybe 1 or 2 employees. Like I very rarely see 3 or more.
Yeah.
And we're not going to these places on like Saturday, Sunday, our days off are Tuesday, Wednesday, so we're usually traveling around then. But even on a Monday for us, or a Thursday, like any less than 5 people, and we're overwhelmed.
Oh, jeez.
Like the amount of like trade-ins that people bring in, and the amount of stuff people want to sell, it's literally too much for 5 people to handle on one day.
That's wild.
And that's why we have mountains of stuff behind the counter that, every now and then both of our computers are tied up doing trades, and then Abby's like, can you just handle this one? Just like do it manually on your phone. And so I just like make him an offer, and then we set the stuff to the side, and we have to enter it later.
Yep. Definitely know that. Yeah, I think here the max we ever have is 4, but that's including a repair guy who's just hanging out in the back, So it's really like 3 people on the floor. And I think I've seen the same thing, like you said. Usually I see 1, oftentimes 2, 3's even rare, but 5 at the time. Are you guys not like literally bumping into each other? Do you have like a pretty big back area?
There's enough of communication with our employees and like moving around and having people. So we have our schedule of who works which day, and we also have our schedule of who works which position in the store that day. So we have 2 computers, and we'll split it up and be you're on register 1, you're on register 2, you're on customer service, you're on repairs, that kind of thing. So everybody has their own spot in the store for a certain amount of time, and then everybody moves around, so nobody gets stuck in a position they don't like.
Oh, okay.
And that's just because we're so busy that it is impossible for somebody to be on the computer and provide customer service of like getting up, unlocking cabinets, and that kind of stuff.
Dang, I like the organization.
Yeah.
That's like
It's still hard
nice.
though.
Yeah.
It's
Like
so
we
hard, yeah.
we have a plan, but it's hard to stick to it, you know.
yeah.
But like when, you know, if we have 2 registers out front, so there's 2 people on those, and then, you know, there might be 2 other people that are just kind of behind the counters just waiting to either help someone at a glass case or answer questions or do whatever. But most of the time they're busy testing and cleaning stuff for the trade-in that the people on the computers are working on. So like if one person would be in charge of doing the trade-in, testing the items and cleaning them and like helping the customer at the same time, it would take, you know, 3 times as long.
Of course.
So even though we have so many people, it still is difficult to kind of like keep up with everything. And on top of like all the stuff on the front of the store, I usually am working in the back, and I ship all day, every day.
Oh yeah, you guys have a popular online store.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have our website where we, you know, everything but our consoles basically are available for worldwide shipping. And because of our YouTube channel, we have people that watch the videos. They see something that got traded in that they want, they go right to the website and they buy it. And the orders are constant, so we are pulling orders throughout the day, all day, and then they get brought to the back, and then I have to pack and ship them. And if we don't do shipping for one day, we have 120 packages waiting to be shipped out that, you know, that takes all day to do.
No, yeah, I'm sure it compounds on itself.
Yeah, so like I have to keep up on it. And, you know, there's other little things to do, of course, you know, at a store, as you know. It's not just opening the glass cases for people and doing a trade-in. There's all sorts of other stuff. So I get a little envious sometimes of other stores when I'm like, I wish we were like that sometimes. Like I could just come into work and have, you know, not have to worry about doing all this stuff like every day.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a good thing. It's good to be busy.
And it's different for everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody's going to have like
definitely.
different schedules and everything.
And it depends on where everyone is too, because I imagine, you know, like New York Video Games is probably extremely busy as well. You know, places in LA and Vegas, I'm sure they're super busy. But around Portland and even Seattle, there's so many game stores that, like, you would kind of think that maybe they wouldn't be as busy because there's other options. People can go everywhere. But in Vancouver, there's only 3 stores. And
There used to be more, but due to COVID, they did close.
yeah,
It's
they're
weird when that happened. Like, man, the ones that survived like did better than ever. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people shut down though. I think I bought 2 or 3 stores when that happened. It was crazy.
I remember one time you had posted on, you had been on Twitch or something, and I saw you buying stuff, and then we went to that store, and I was just like, did you just sell this to Cody? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I saw it on Twitch. And then they're like, I told him, he's like, no. And I was like, no, the background matches.
Oh wow, nice.
But yeah, so when you first took over Pink Gorilla, did you guys take over the 2 locations, or did you only have the 1?
Man, that's a long story. So I guess I'll get into that one. Yeah, so taking over Pink Gorilla was quite the process. I started there when I was 21. I'm 33 now, almost 34, and
You do not look 34.
thank you.
you're older than I am.
So
I'm 32, so you're not that much.
yeah. So yeah, when I started though, I just like bothered them every single day. I'm like, I want to work here. I came up here to Seattle for because I'm actually from Vancouver. I came up here to Seattle to do what's it called? University of Washington, the college, right? So I saw this place when I was driving to my dorm to move in, like on the side, you know, in the University District, I was like, oh, holy shit, what's that? I gotta go see it. Ran on up and then started bothering them every day because I've never not had a job. Like even before it was legal, I've been working I worked in a bumper factory illegally, just like moving stuff around and fighting bees nests and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, this is the first time in my life I don't have a job because I moved to a new city. I got to get this one. This seems dope, and it totally blew my mind because nowadays I feel like I don't hear this as much anymore. But when I first started, I would always hear from customers, wow, so much nostalgia. This is my childhood, man. Like that phrase 1,000 times. So where at first it was like, oh, that's so cute. And now it's just like, I've read it. And I don't want to become jaded like that because it's awesome they're having that moment. And now I miss it because there are a lot of game stores now. So that doesn't happen as often that people's minds are just totally blown. But mine was at the time. And so I took over, and about a year after, got promoted to manager because I'm just a workaholic. I'm sure if you guys weren't before, it sounds like you always have been, but if you weren't before, you kind of have to be, right?
Yeah.
With all
definitely.
you guys got going on. So got promoted to manager. Several years go by, lots of things happen, and completely out of the blue, I'm working at our, at the time, the Bellevue location. Out of the blue, the owner calls me, and he's an interesting character. I'll talk more about him some other times, but his name's Nathan. He's an attorney, and he also owns a marijuana store, and he also used to own Pink Gorilla. And he calls me out of the blue, and he goes, I'm too busy for this, and I'm too old for this. Would you like to buy this store? If you're not buying this store, I'm shutting it down. I was like, okay. So when he first called me and he's telling me on the phone, he's like, I'm too old for this. I'm going, oh, I'm getting fired right now. This fucking sucks. I was feeling terrible and like depressed for like a couple seconds until he gets to the point. He's got this vocal tick. He'll talk and he'll be like, yeah, so I was over and over and I'm like, God, can we get to it, man? Just fire me already.
Nerve-wracking,
Yeah, so instead of firing me, he goes, hey, would you like to buy the entire thing? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He goes, cool, I'll send you a contract. This big, long, lawyerly contract, right? I go, okay, yeah, I didn't even get a price from him. I'm just kind of like, wow, that was a real whiplash of like total depression to like, oh, wow, life's going to change now. So I agreed and said yes, despite having no idea what the price was or how funding would happen or anything. After we kind of worked on that and negotiated things. And again, this guy's like a really interesting character. He's a little hard to communicate with. One of the stipulations, because at the time you're asking, there were 3 locations at the time. There's the Bellevue, U District, and International District. And he demanded as part of it that we close the Bellevue store. And I kept asking him, like, well, why? Can I pay you more to keep that open? He's just like, no. He just would not respond. I'm like, oh, weird. Okay, whatever. Like, I'll take what you have laid out, That's obviously his way of saying, I'm not humoring your suggestions. Anyway, it was weird. Anyway, so
you never got a reason?
No. He just said, we're closing that store. He wanted whatever deposit back, and he wanted all the inventory from that store. So it's like, okay, whatever, man. Like, whatever you want. I just want to get this over with.
I hate to like break up your story, but
no, do it.
Did you, like, after closing that store and taking over, did you ever consider like just reopening another store up there?
Yeah, so in Bellevue, there's kind of only one good place to be. We weren't in a good place at all. We were in the middle of downtown that's just offices, right? A little bit down the street from a mall, so I guess that's kind of helpful, but we were where an office should be, or not really where a game store should be. There's a place called Crossroads Mall, and right now there is a store there, Game Over, and there's a GameStop. Mm-hmm. So if Game Over closed, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, maybe that's the wrong term, but if they close, I'd be like, oh great, we can move in. But wait a minute, why did they close? Maybe we shouldn't move in. So, so I think we're probably likely not ever returning to Bellevue, but I don't know what the future holds. But yeah, so being there in Bellevue and having to close that store is like, all right, whatever. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to pay for this place now, right? Massive price ticket, although he was quite generous given the value. My business partner, Kelsey, she doesn't like me disclosing that, so sorry to be a little vague, but I gotta respect that. So so he has this price tag that's like pretty generous, but still like massively outside of like any kind of money I've ever had. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll go to a bank. The store has a very long history. It's profitable. This should be easy, right? Go to the bank, and we're working with this guy, like one of the bankers, and he's talking like a used car salesman. I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? And he goes, and he just keeps me off and asking for more and more forms. Like, I understand, like, he wants like 3 to 5 years business history, but he's like, all right, now I want more history and more and more. I'm like, why do you want numbers from like 7 years ago? That's so irrelevant to now, but whatever, dude.
Yeah.
So we're trying to comply with this guy's stuff, and he goes, hey, I'm going on vacation. I'll help you guys when I get back. I'm like, okay. And then we're trying to get a hold of him. We can never get a hold of him again. We go to the bank, and they go, oh, yeah, he went to Mexico and just never came back. Okay.
What?
Awesome. That's amazing. So
is that kind of like, was he planning on disappearing, and
Right.
why did he want all of our information?
Right? Maybe identity theft play. Oh, maybe he was fleeing with all my financial numbers. I don't know.
I mean, I know that the IRS can audit up to 7 years after taxes have been filed.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I would
Maybe
kind
that's
of
what he
understand the
wanted.
7 years, but at the same time, not.
Yeah, we weren't asking for that much.
Yeah.
Like, we had a little bit of fun, but anyway, it was
'cause even
obnoxious.
Like when we bought our house, it was. I mean, we didn't have to jump through that many hoops like that.
It was 2 years.
Yeah, it's so silly, but whatever. So, there we are sitting with an owner who's Nathan, who's kind of annoyed. He's like, "Where the hell is the money? PAX is coming up. I mean, I'm just gonna close it. Like it's too much work. It's too much work." And I'm like, I get it, man. And stroke of luck. So my whole life, like I mentioned, I've been working. I've also always saved. I've never really like spent money on anything. So my grandparents taught me when I was very young about investing. So I just would always mess around with the stock market. Basically, I always call it like educated gambling. It's just stock picking. It's you can pretend like you're a genius, but you're just gambling.
Yeah.
So I saw a very good opportunity that happened to go along with my interest, which was Nintendo. Nintendo had what's it called, an enterprise value that was lower than their market cap. So for those who don't know, enterprise value is if you take all of Nintendo's assets, ignore things like goodwill. Like, for example, Kirby, that's goodwill. Kirby's worth something. You could sell Kirby to Disney, something like that, right? Just take their assets, their debt, pretend like you're just liquidating the company and turning it into cash, right? That number was higher than their stock market value. He goes, that doesn't make any sense. You could hypothetically purchase this company and then just sell it and make a profit. For Nintendo, that doesn't make any sense at all. That's, again, before like all their intellectual property, all this like crazy stuff. It was so off. And what that signals is like an error, which is not what it was. People just really expected like nothing from them. This was like the time of the Wii U, right? They were just like, no, they're going bankrupt. They're going to go third party. They're done. And I go, okay, well, this is the only time I've ever seen a sure thing in my life. So I put all the money I've ever saved into that, all the eggs in one basket. Again, gambling as you shouldn't. And it worked out. So a game called Pokemon Go comes out, and it confused the shit out of people. And so Nintendo, although they greatly benefited from like all the marketing and whatnot, they were very little owners of the actual game itself, right? Like they own Creatures Inc. or Game Freak or whatever, and then they own a part of that game, and Google's a part of it. Like there's so many layers where they're like, yeah, that's not us. It's just kind of advertising our Pokemon game, which is great.
Yeah.
But basically, it caused the stock to like jump from like, I think I bought it at 11, and it went up to like, I want to say 50 or maybe even 60. So I was like, okay, great. I just like 6 times my money. That's awesome. So then
That's crazy.
I was able to stop gambling and buy something that's a little bit more consistent, a store, right? So turn that into that and take over, and here we are sitting with a completely empty bank account and 2 stores to operate and a PAX right around the corner. So we're like, okay, thank God for that PAX, but also we're gonna have to bust ass because we need to, pay for the inventory for that and make it all happen. But Yeah,
That's
those were
kind of
some
similar
interesting
to
early days.
when we first opened. The day we opened the store, we had $200 left in our account.
We had
That's so scary.
$237 in our account the day we opened our store.
Yeah.
Because we did not take out a loan.
Yeah.
And we just worked our butts off.
Yeah, and like when we started like actually working on opening the store, like, here's the keys, like set everything up. Like I stopped doing eBay and Amazon stuff, so like our income like stopped.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so we were just spending money, like, getting all the stuff we needed for the store. And then that day we opened, there was only, $200 left. And I was like, if this doesn't work, like, in like the first week, we got to make some money.
Yeah.
And yeah, one thing that anytime somebody asks me, like, hey, advice on opening a game store, and I'm like, you can negotiate with your landlords. And they're like, what? I'm like, you can absolutely negotiate. We signed our lease, and we got them to give us the keys and not have us pay rent for 2 or 3 months.
Whoa!
So we had that month of setting up the store and everything, getting the glass cases in, getting all that stuff. And then we had, I want to say, so it was a month and a half of setting up, and then it was a month where we did not have to pay rent.
Nice.
And it was like, if the building is going to stay open and your lease date starts 3 months from now, why not give you the access to it? Like, you just signed a 3-year lease. They're going to try to, like, be like, fine, that's fine.
That's smart. I do that. I had never tried for that much. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we went through, and I have said this is kind of like my motto is, the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to say no.
Well, yeah.
That's the worst thing that's going to happen. If you have signed that contract already, and you go, like, hey, can we move this around? And they're like, sure, why not? Our landlords are the biggest, like, corporation company that owns apartment complexes in Vancouver, so I think that helps. And they own the pretty much the entire 2 blocks that we are located on.
Oh, wow.
So I think that they're like, yeah, that's fine, whatever, we don't care. You guys are small fries, it's fine.
Nice.
But I think that was an interesting parallel to your story, is that you started with nothing in the bank, because we were pretty much in the same boat. Obviously, you having 2 stores, probably much bigger headache and everything, but it's interesting because I feel like most people who are going to open a game store probably are not willing to go to zero.
No. Yeah, that was scary. Yeah, and you're right with the 2 stores. Expenses are obviously higher, but I think the benefit that I had is that everything was already operational. You kind of had a mildly expected income already, so it probably wasn't as scary as that situation. I can't imagine being like, okay, we've never been open before. We have $200. Please come in, please. Yeah. So how did that work, like, the first month or so?
Really, really well. I'm sorry,
have you already been doing YouTube, like, advertising and stuff for
Yes.
some time?
Yes.
Okay,
So
great.
So I have been making YouTube videos since 2010.
Oh, wow.
But it was mostly just like showing the stuff I picked up for my collection, because I've collected the whole time as well. And so I would just do pickup videos.
Some music covers that you did as well.
Oh, with the band?
No, I would do like some vocal covers and stuff. I don't know why she's laughing about it.
Because they're great.
There was no comedy involved in those.
There's no comedy, but they were very entertaining for me.
But
to see young Cooper?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
So I was making videos just random stuff, just collection videos and stuff like that. And then we took a trip to Florida to record a music video for my band. And then after that, because that only took like a couple days, and after that, we were like, let's go game hunting around Florida. We're going to open a store. Let's go find some inventory.
Yeah.
And we made a video about the trip, going to all these pawn shops and everything, because like pawn shops in Vancouver, they're like not really popular. Like thrift stores around here are what people go to like hunt for video games. Mm-hmm. But in Florida, it's all pawn shops. Thrift stores down there suck.
Oh.
It's all pawn shops. And so we just went around, we were making this video, and then we got back home, and I don't know why, but we were like, oh, let's go to Astoria. And so we made another video, just like going to Astoria, went to a couple places, and then we had a Craigslist deal like the next day where we picked up like an Earthbound, and we made a video about that, and I was like, this is like 3 videos in a row. Let's just daily vlog.
Oh, okay.
And so we started doing that. So we were doing daily videos from like early 2018.
It was February of 2017.
Well, whenever we started, it was before the store opened, so we like vlogged the entire process of like going to look at locations, and then once we found one, setting up the store and like
buying
everything.
The glass cases,
that's so cool.
everything.
And it was literally daily videos. So even if it was a day off, we still made a video about something.
Wow.
And we made videos every single day without missing a day for like 4.5 years.
Whoa.
Eventually, we cut it back to just 5 a week, so we have our weekend, which is really nice, but kind of going on a tangent. But
yeah, that must have... So I assume,
but that was helpful.
Sounds like you probably had a pretty big opening week if like these people are following you on there. I mean, you know,
yeah,
you can be anywhere in America. But,
and we posted in like all the local Facebook groups, Portland Retro Gamers group, and like we know a lot of the people in the local gaming community. So like we had, you know, our opening day, we had a ton of people come through and everything.
We also did a giveaway for a Super Nintendo Classic, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just like little things. But it also helped that I was the only person there. We didn't have any payroll expenses. We didn't have, you know, anything like that. Because I guess when you opened, everything's already set up. So like you said, there's at least some expected, you know, income.
And expenses.
Yeah. But yeah, for ours, not having rent for the first month of being open, or I think it was 2 months of being open, we didn't have to pay rent. That was really helpful, and that was a huge weight off my shoulders, because I was like, you know, rent is not cheap, especially when you have $0 in the bank. So, but luckily, you know, everything worked out, obviously. But
yeah, you guys are doing great now. You've been talking about expanding if you're neighborly, so that's good news. Have you thought of expanding? Of course you have. To a second store?
Yes.
People ask all the time about that.
We're still on the fence about it. So the biggest thing that's holding us back from that is that we are not 7 days a week yet at our first location. And with how much volume we have of people coming in and doing trades, it's really difficult to train people. And so typically I'm the one who runs the front end of the store, and I'm also the one that trains everybody. And it has been kind of a hard balance between finding somebody who is going to stick around and like work with our team and get along with everybody, and then being able to also train that person in the long run. So we do our 30-day trial period, and then at that point, that's when the serious training starts.
You guys are so like organized with your employee structure.
It sounds like we are, but we're not.
I feel very loose now with what we're doing.
I just like to have a plan. I like to know what's going to happen and what to expect. And I like to not be controlling, but be in control of like a situation. So I know like exactly like what I'm going to do and like what I'm going to offer for training, and see where it goes and how to train somebody. I remember working. So when we opened in 2017, I think, or 2018, I think I was 21 or 22 when we opened.
Yeah.
And I'm 26 now, so I had for a few years worked at these minimum wage crappy jobs, and they're like, oh, you're just an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
that's really lazy, and I was an awful employee prior to. So I was so bad.
You're working for yourself, right? It's a little easier.
So yeah, I had like decided I'm not going to have employees start and just throw them in the wind and be like, here, you're on a register, bye. Like, no. And so that kind of led to like how I handle our employees and make sure that everybody's doing good, and I check on them and stuff. But it has been a journey. So yeah, we're just trying to get to that 7 days a week. We were working towards 6 days a week. We had just a little bit of a bump in the road. So right now we're just definitely at 5. And then once we hit 7, we'll see where we're going to go with that. We would probably prefer to just jump into like a different business avenue rather than going with a second location of our store, because of how many moving parts are with our store. We have the online store, we have the YouTube, we have so many employees, and if we open up a second location, it would really just be easier to not offer the online store to that, but it would make things different, like difficult and a little bit different. So once we hit that 7 days a week, we'll see where we're at. But until then, we're just trying to do our best with our location.
I think what we are more than likely going to do, instead of opening a second location, we will probably move to just a bigger spot for our one location.
Oh, okay.
And
This
this
is scary though, man. Even moving like across the street is like confusing to people. It's go, oh, that place is closed, I guess. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough.
that's definitely a
So hopefully
concern.
you can knock down that wall and just have.
That would be nice.
Or
But
are you thinking you want to move to like a busier area or
Well,
something?
So we are right off of Mill Plain and Chocolate, which, unless you live in Vancouver, you're not going to know where that is. But
I know
that
it's
is
busy.
it's the number one busiest intersection in all of Clark County.
Yeah.
So we're like a block and a half away from that. We can't really get much of a busier location, but something that we have been thinking about, and I would really love to do. I've written down like all sorts of plans and stuff, but I want us to move to a spot that's 5 or 6 times bigger than what we have now.
Oh man!
And I want to have super tall ceilings, but the ceilings in our store are not very tall. We can only go up so far.
We have a drop ceiling.
But
It's like when all of this stuff is covered,
it's got
so
like the
you
weird
don't have
panels.
and you
Oh
just
yeah.
pop them up. So those
One of
are
ours have that. I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a pain.
But like all the sections that we do, because we don't just do video games, we do movies and toys, and we do some Pokemon card stuff and all that. But we want to expand all those sections, because right now our movie stuff, it's just like one section of a wall, and we try to focus mainly just on horror and anime because that's what sells. But all movies sell, but we can't justify taking up room for a bunch of $1 DVDs.
Yeah.
But if we have this massive space, we can have I want to have like a mini movie store in the game store. Like I want it to be sectioned
Make
off.
the ultimate like kind of nerdy-ish
Yeah.
adjacent store.
There's a store down in, it's either Medford or Grants Pass, and it is, from my understanding, it's owned by 2 brothers, and one
It's called
half,
Game Swap.
yes, Game Swap. They have 2 locations now, but the original location, one half of it is a video game store, and the other half of it looks like a retro movie store. Like not
That's
Best
cute.
or not Best Buy, Blockbuster, but like the other like mom and pop owned like movie rental places. And it is not, I think they do rentals there too, which is very surprising.
Yeah.
But it is a small town, so it kind of makes sense that they're able to do that. But it is, we've been in there like a few times, and it's just like such a cool vibe to have that, oh, this feels like a rental, like movie place. So
Yeah,
it would be cool to have that.
They have the video game part sectioned off with like a half wall. So it's like a 4-foot wall and then like a big entryway. And I think that'd be cool. Their bigger section is the movies. I would do it the opposite way, have the bigger section be the video games and everything else, and have a small sectioned off thing for like all the movies. But it's too much to get into unless we want to do a separate podcast all about that. But there's like so many things that we want to do. There's stuff that I see from our distributors that I do not purchase because we don't have room for it. But I'm like, that could be its own section, like T-shirts and hats and backpacks and wallets and like apparel kind of stuff. I can get that from all of our distributors, but we never buy it because we don't have a spot for it. But if the store is big enough, we could have a section for that. Just kind of like cover all the areas of like anything, like someone like your average person that shops at our store. We want to be able to provide them with all the stuff they would buy outside of like necessities.
Yes.
Or even a friend group. Like we do experience a lot of friend groups coming into our store, and maybe like if it's a group of 5 people, like 1 or 2 of them will be really, really into games, and the other ones are just there to hang out. But if we offered those things, I feel like it would almost like appeal to a lot more of a friend group, and it can be a friend outing.
Yeah, we totally catch a lot of that with like the cute Japanese keychains, like just to kind of play into the stereotype of girls playing less games. Wife comes in and she's like not into it, but she sees all that stuff and she'll pick up like more than the husband paid in games. She'll buy in like cute plushies, and you're like, sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The 2 times that we've been here at this location, we have seen people like walk past and then they backtrack just for the plushies.
yeah, put them right front and center on the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anywho, I wish you guys luck with the expansion. That would be sick. I know I'll be there for the grand opening if you're doing it.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll have to see.
You go to Portland though?
Portland's tough.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
regulations are completely different. So Vancouver's a bit of a gray area with our pawn shop laws. So I think you have to have a secondhand dealer's license here, which is pawn shop. We don't have to have that.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we're in a bit of a gray spot.
We don't have to have that in certain parts of Vancouver.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because there's the city
Well,
limits.
thank God it's the busy
then-
area where you are. So.
And then in Portland, last time we checked, Portland requires, Multnomah County requires fingerprinting, which
Oh,
people are
yeah.
nope. They
Yeah.
immediately they see that fingerprint scanner and they're like, I don't want it.
No, well, I'll tell you this. I thought the same thing. I've heard it's many parts of California do the
Yeah.
same thing, which is why I'm like, absolutely not. Never in
No.
LA or anything like that, right? Because I think about it this way. I think, okay, we get sketchy people trading stuff in. They are not going to give a shoot about anything, the fingerprint all day. Normal people like me, if I was going somewhere to sell something, here's you're getting $10 for whatever. I'm not giving you my fingerprints.
No.
I'm not giving that to GameStop. Like, there's data leaks everywhere. Hell
Yeah.
no. So I think you would just turn off legitimate people with this stupid fingerprint thing.
Absolutely. And we hear that feedback. I think that's a big reason why we're so busy is because we get people coming in who they don't want to share their full name with us, and we have to take it down due to the laws and everything. But there are a lot of people who are just like, I am not interested in providing you my phone number, my first and last name, or anything. And it's like, well, we have to do this. We're not going to bug you. Our system's not connected to the internet. And they're like, okay, that's fine. Here you go.
Okay.
But yeah, with Portland just being 5 minutes away from us, there are people who would rather drive through the traffic, go over the bridge to us, rather than put their fingerprints on
Oh
some
my
of the game
God,
stores.
that's smart. Okay.
But also,
They also, well,
there's a ton of game stores around Portland already, but also, like, I can't think of one game store in Portland that has not been broken into in the last 4 months.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Portland's getting kind of crazy. Like, there's obviously, good and bad parts of every town, but
it's been pretty tough on some of the other businesses to experience getting broken into, regardless if it's intentional or if it is just people being upset and wanting to smash things. And then the one other thing that I was going to go on about the stores is that Multnomah County has a 30-day hold period on everything.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
And I actually think that that's Portland, or not
Yeah.
Portland. I think that's the entire state of Oregon because they do practice that down in Medford. But we have a 15-day hold on anything that has a serial number that's been made in the last 5 years that's worth $75 or more. So
Sounds reasonable.
it is very reasonable.
Ours is 30 days, everything. And I'm like, okay, this pile of 360 games is completely indistinguishable from everyone else. Number two, we've been in business 18 years, never once had a police officer come in to say, I'm looking for these games.
yeah,
Yes.
It's
never
always
happened to
just
us
been
either.
inspector to make sure we're following the rules that nobody is optimizing. We got to talk about this on a different time.
Yes.
This is so much to talk
It's
about.
so silly.
Yeah. Anywho, I'll probably wrap it up there. That's about an hour. So, thank you guys so much. And, of course, doublejumpgames.com.
Double Jump Video Games.
Videogames.com. Thank you.
Thank you for
all your video
having
games.
us.
Yeah, of course.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.